table of contents. You can look, and the data is consistent in 2008 and 2009. For example, in 2008, 5,769 drug arrests were made. Of those, 2,942 were for possession of marijuana, 508 were of sale or manufacturing. Sometimes that's paraphernalia. If we were to take the marijuana market off the trade, out of the black market, you can just see from the arrest rates how substantial marijuana is in the drug trade. You would siphon out and you would suck out the life of the drug trade. And then we would be able to focus our resources on things like oxycodone, diversion, all the prescription drugs that are being diverted right now, be able to focus our resources there on things like heroin. Just a few weeks ago, my own Chief Craig was here begging the committee to turn cocaine possession or crack cocaine possession into a felony because we have people being robbed at gunpoint. The only reason I don't mind working at Colucci's late at night is because the fire department is across the street from me. At the very bottom of the hill, there's a couple of other stores where people work. I won't work there because those people get robbed at gunpoint regularly. So it's not a concise answer, and for that I apologize, Representative Burns. But I think you'll see that if you take marijuana out of the drug trade, not only are you siphoning off the vast majority of the drug trade so that we can focus our resources on the small portion that really is truly devastating communities and really hone in on those. But you're going to be finally having some control over the market that we don't have right now.
You want to follow up, Representative Burns?
If I may, Mr. Chair, in response to that, I won't give you a response. I'll save it for the work session, other than to say for every action there is a reaction.
Of course.
You indicated that one of your main goals is to protect kids. One of your own proponents sat here a few weeks ago and said, from his perspective, he thought it perfectly fine. If it's okay for him, it's fine for kids too.
I disagree with that perspective.
I certainly disagree with it also, but that feeling is somewhat prevalent among current users, I have found. Is that not so?
Is that not so? I don't spend a whole lot of time asking that question to consumers of marijuana. I will say that when I wrote this bill, the first draft, I was told it was terrible. I said, all right, let's rewrite it from the scratch. I believe very much in the process of drafting important, critical bills. And then I put the next draft out for people to view. I got emails from all over the place. I got Facebook emails. I got a Facebook email from Aroostook County who said you forgot to include provisions to protect, to go after folks who sell to minors. So many people who weighed in on this bill made it so much better because they were so critical and they understood the implications of it, that they really went the extra mile to think through and provide constructive advice on things to include for the sheer purpose of protecting our young people. I disagree with anyone who would suggest that this should not be that this should be in the hands of young people. I disagree with folks who think that tobacco should be in the hands of young people. My mother would shoot me. Actually, she would probably dismember me.
I appreciate your mother.
You should. She's a tough cookie. She raised no shrinking violet, as I'm sure you're all aware. I lived this stuff growing up. I remember going into Pizza Hut when there was still smoking. You could smoke anywhere. And we had this little smoking section, non-smoking section, and my mother berated the waitress, and I, to this day, do not agree that that was the right thing to do, but she berated the waitress who came over after 15 minutes and said, the no smoking section's still full. Do you still want to be in the no smoking section? My mother went up one side of her and down the other, and she said, I have kids. And you want them breathing that smoke? It was the most embarrassing pizza I have ever eaten. But she was right.
Another concern that I have that I'll turn into a question.
Isn't that so?
Because I may not get another access to you. So
You are welcome to speak to me as often as you like.
On record.
I will be here for the work session, considering I think it's next.
I started my drug interdiction training in 1971, and it's continued right up to present. I serve on a board whose primary sole purpose is to provide rehabilitation and safe home for women with children trying to get off drug addiction.
Thank you for that.
Through that long time span, I have worked with a lot of police officers. You have a police officer that's going to come and testify today. I have no idea what he's going to say.
Yep.
But for every police officer you can find that has his opinion, I venture to say that I can probably find 50 that pose that opinion.
Yep.
Do you have an answer for that? Are we just prejudiced? Are we just...
No, I don't think you're prejudiced at all.
narrow-sighted?
I think that people come to this issue with the best of intentions. We're all here because we want to protect children. We may disagree with how we do that. I will point to another piece of the binder. Just when you go to the back, there's yellow, and just before that, there's a tab. Just so you know, I included emails in here from people who thought I should be impeached. I included everything because I really believe in the process. And I don't want to out the person, so I'll leave it to you guys to look. But if you look at the article that says panel looks to legalize marijuana, it says, as a police officer who also worked with the main drug enforcement agency, this is from an article, he said, most marijuana users tend to be sleepy and nonviolent. Quote, I've never fought with anyone stoned. I've never been to a marijuana overdose, he said. He agreed that, quote, we should look at decriminalizing it, regulating it, and taxing it. He was also a former undercover narcotics agent. No one comes to this thinking that we should make it so that young people have access to it. I think that's what we're really worried about. We're worried about young people having access to it. We're worried about addiction. Alcohol is an addictive substance. It's a highly addictive substance, but we regulate it. We have a process. And you can probably find just as many police officers who think that it should be banned as who think that it should be legal.
Certainly.
Thank you. I'd be glad to let somebody else take that turn too, but
I appreciate the grilling.
Russell was going to be here just one time, and I want an opportunity if I could. I've arrested people for driving under the influence of marijuana, and
Yep.
I've lost the case in court because we have inadequate methods available. We did have, we're moving away from that, to make that type of determination and detection.
Yep.
In fact, we just had a bill in there a week or so ago dealing with the issues of operating under the influence of drugs. I think of one in particular that was literally driving on both sidewalks. There was no alcohol
Yep.
in their system, it was all pot. How do we deal with that type of thing if we say that it's legal for adults to consume marijuana in their own home and then go out and drive their vehicle on both sides of the road, on both sidewalks, down your street?
Well, for the record, I did not suggest that this should be legal to operate under the influence. On the contrary,
Certainly not.
we have provisions in place, and I included in the binder the international standards of the Drug Evaluation and Certification Program, which is the DRE program, which I'm sure folks here are familiar with. One of the challenges, as you mentioned, is the resources. Someone needs a DRE officer, there's only about 8 in the state, need to be able to come and be able to make an evaluation as to whether or not that person was operating truly under the influence of drugs. When I spoke off the record with a DRE officer, he informed me that the vast majority of people that he pulls over or that he finds are actually on sleeping medication or painkillers, because it takes about 20 minutes to a half an hour to take effect. So someone takes it when they actually leave work, and then something happens. They get sidetracked or something, and they end up sleepy at the wheel, or they end up doing just like you said. If we had more revenue to allocate to purchasing the time and the experience of DRE officers, we'd be in a better position to prosecute those people who are not being responsible. Now, to your question about what happens if we legalize it, These are people that are already doing it illegally, and we know. We would be opening it up to people who would not be consuming marijuana unless it was legal. They are already choosing not to consume marijuana. Choosing not to consume marijuana now because it's illegal. Why would they do something illegal when it becomes legal? You're assuming that folks who are choosing now not to consume. Because your argument is that if we legalize it, then more people have access to it, right? Well, if they're choosing not to consume it now because they're law-abiding citizens and they don't want to consume a substance that's illegal, why then would we assume that those law-abiding citizens would choose to do something illegal when the substance becomes legal? Further, when we spend an estimated $26.5 million on enforcement and tracking down of marijuana, if we were not spending that in that way, perhaps this committee would have freed up some of its resources so that we could increase the number of DREs in the state. I agree, we don't have the resources at the moment, but I also think that we're allocating the resources that we have in a manner that is not consistent with public safety. We could be better allocating more resources to doing just the types of things you're talking about if we made different decisions. It's an opportunity cost every time a police officer arrests one of the 2,900 people. You know all the paperwork involved. You're a state trooper.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Burns. I really appreciate your questions.
We do have other questions, but before I go to Senator Jazowski, I'd like to acknowledge the presence of Representative Long, who entered the room after we started. Representative Long is sitting to my far right, at least geographically, if not politically.
He's to my left. What does that mean?
Senator Jazowski.
Who's always been on your far right. First, I'd like to make a short statement of truth and honesty and everything. Last time I woke up in the morning with 4 Blackwall tires, I had just consumed a legal substance called wild turkey. So now I have a question for you.
Thank you, Senator. Get a good conversation
and I
off
might
the
have to
road.
wait until later. I hope that you can answer this, but if not, I know that I have people that can. When did Maine decriminalize marijuana and make it a civil offense for small amounts of marijuana?
That is a very good question that I do not know the answer to. I know that we are 45th in the country in terms of decriminalization. So we're pretty far along the line. The distinction is that we're still arresting people and we could be earning revenue instead of spending revenue. But I do not know that answer, and I can,
So you
if
would-
someone behind me does not have the answer, I will get it for you.
Okay, then Mr. McKenna's here. I'm sure he's going to be able to answer every question I got. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Senator.
Representative Hanlon.
Thank you. Representative Russell, welcome to the Justice Committee.
Thank you.
If dealers are trying to increase their business, if they're trying, especially younger people,
Yeah.
and they're using marijuana laced usually with something else,
Yep.
wouldn't this just take and aggravate that and add to it? I mean, if they're doing it now, and obviously they're trying to be very careful because they're engaged in a criminal activity, if we basically say, well, you can have marijuana now, wander around and try to entice people, is this going to make the situation better or worse if they're giving it away free?
Why would they give it away free?
Didn't you mention earlier that they actually give marijuana, free marijuana,